What if the person you love is not cold, not heartless, not confused, but scared by how close love feels? What if every time they pull back, go quiet, or act like they do not care, it is not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much all at once? That is where most people get it wrong. They chase harder, they ask for more, they push for answers, and without meaning to, they become the very pressure that makes the avoidant shut down. So if you have ever sat there staring at a dry text, a delayed reply, or a smile that hides a wall, stay with me, because this may change how you see everything. Loving an avoidant is not about being louder, sweeter, or more intense. It is about knowing how to bring calm where they expect pressure. It is about becoming safe without becoming small, and if you miss this, you will keep reading distance as rejection, when sometimes it is really fear wearing a quiet face. Watch closely, because the difference between losing them and reaching them often comes down to this one truth. Love feels good to many people, but to an avoidant, love can feel dangerous before it feels beautiful. And once you understand that, you stop fighting the person and start understanding the pattern. That is when the whole story begins to change. We all want love, but not everyone knows how to receive it in the same way. When you fall for someone with avoidant attachment, love can start to feel like walking on a wire high above the ground. One wrong word, one emotional moment, one need shared too strongly, and suddenly they pull away. They disappear behind polite replies, unfinished texts, busy schedules, or a silence that feels sharp enough to hurt. It is easy to think they do not care. It is easy to believe you are too much. But most of the time, that is not the real story. The real story is that closeness touches something old inside them, something tense, something trained to expect cost, pressure, or loss. The closer love gets, the more their system sounds an alarm. So the question is not how do you make them love you by trying harder. The real question is how do you help love feel safe enough that they do not have to run from it? And even more important, how do you do that without losing yourself in the process? Because this matters. Loving an avoidant should never mean abandoning your own heart. It starts with seeing them clearly, not as broken, not as cruel, not as impossible, but as someone whose connection system learned that intimacy can come with a price. And if you want to reach their heart, you cannot only speak to their feelings, you have to speak to their fear. That is where trust begins. And trust, not intensity, is what opens the door. Avoidant people often carry a deep fear of being emotionally swallowed, not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it is quiet, sometimes it hides under independence, self-control, or the need for space. But underneath that calm surface, there is often an old message running the show. If I let someone get too close, I will lose freedom, control, peace, or even myself. Maybe in childhood, emotion was not handled gently. Maybe being vulnerable led to shame, control, criticism, or being misunderstood. Maybe they were praised for being strong and punished for having needs. So now, as adults, love does not always light them up with comfort. Sometimes it wakes up defense. That means the fastest way to lose them is to make love feel like a demand. Big, dramatic proof, constant emotional pressure, endless talks about where this is going. All of that can feel like a trap, even when your intentions are pure. What works better is something quieter and stronger, calm, clear, steady love, the kind that does not grab, the kind that does not corner, the kind that says, I care, and I am not here to control you. That is powerful to an avoidant. Respect for autonomy is not distance, it is wisdom. You are showing them that closeness with you does not mean losing air. It means having room to breathe and still being cared for. And that changes everything. Because when they stop feeling managed, measured, or pushed, they can begin to feel what they usually hide from: connection, real connection, slow, quiet, and honest. That is why the way you speak matters so much. Avoidant people do not just react to your words, they react to the energy under your words. If your message carries blame, panic, or silent pressure, they feel it right away, even if your sentence sounds soft. But if your words are honest and emotionally steady, they can stay present longer. So instead of saying, "Why do you never open up to me?" try something like, "I feel closer when we talk openly, and when you are ready, I am here." See the difference. One creates pressure, the other creates choice. And choice is everything for an avoidant. They need to feel they are stepping toward you, not being dragged. Love becomes safer when it is offered, not demanded. This does not mean hiding your feelings. It does not mean pretending to be cool when you are hurting. It means learning how to express your truth without loading it with emotional force. Say what you feel, say what matters, but say it in a way that leaves dignity in the room. That is how trust grows, and timing matters just as much as wording. If they are already shut down, flooded, or pulling back, that is usually the worst time to force a deep emotional talk. If you chase them in that moment, even with good intentions, their defenses rise fast. But if you give space with steadiness, not punishment, they begin to link your presence with safety instead of pressure. Stay with this, because this one shift can save months of pain. You are not becoming less loving, you are becoming more skillful. Think of it like this: if you approach a frightened animal too fast, even with open hands, it will still run. Not because your heart is wrong, but because your speed feels unsafe. Avoidant people can be similar in emotional moments. If you rush toward their fear, they retreat. If you sit calmly, stay grounded, and let trust build at a pace they can hold, they start coming closer on their own. That is the real love story here. Not fireworks, not emotional extremes, not giant promises made in the middle of confusion. The real story is the slow build, the steady return, the quiet moment when they stay instead of escape. Another strong way to build safety is to mirror their emotional language without abandoning your own. That means pacing your depth. If they share a small truth, meet it with enough warmth to honor it, but do not flood the space with your whole life story. If they say, "I have a hard time trusting people," that is not the moment to pour out every wound you have ever had. That is the moment to say, "I hear you. Trust takes time. I am not rushing this." That kind of answer tells them you are present, but not invasive. You are open, but not overwhelming. And that balance matters. Avoidant people usually do not fear love itself. They fear what love might take from them: control, space, emotional safety. So the more you show them that closeness with you can happen without pressure, the more they begin to relax. Not all at once, but enough for something new to start growing where fear used to live. Consistency is what turns fear into safety. Not one perfect conversation, not one romantic night, not one deep text at midnight. Consistency. Avoidant people often watch more than they speak. Even when they act detached, they are taking in everything. They notice if you become reactive every time they pull back. They notice if you use guilt to pull them closer. They notice if you create chaos just to feel chosen. And they notice when you do the opposite, when you stay calm, when you hold your center, when you do not punish them for needing space, but you also do not abandon yourself to keep them comfortable. Every emotionally mature response starts to rewrite their inner map. Slowly, closeness stops meaning entrapment. It starts meaning peace. And peace is deeply attractive to someone who has lived on defense for a long time. If you can become a person who does not chase, does not beg, does not threaten, but also does not disappear into self-betrayal, they begin to experience something rare: safe closeness. That can be life-changing for them. But this part is important, so listen closely. Being safe for them does not mean being endlessly available to bad behavior. It does not mean tolerating emotional neglect and calling it patience. It means showing steady care while staying anchored in self-respect. That combination is powerful: warmth with backbone, softness with clarity, care without self-erasure. That is the energy that feels different to an avoidant, because it does not ask them to drown, and it does not let you drown either. This is where boundaries become essential. And yes, avoidant people often respect strong boundaries more than emotional pleading. Why? Because clear boundaries feel stable, they feel adult, they feel honest. If they disappear for days and come back acting like nothing happened, do not explode, and do not pretend it is fine when it is not. Meet the moment with calm truth. You can say, "I care about you, and I respect that you may need space, but I also need communication and consistency." That sentence does a lot. It says you are not here to control them. It also says your needs matter. That is exactly the balance you want. You are safe, but you are not a doormat, and that matters more than many people realize. Avoidant people often distrust emotional chaos, but they deeply respect emotional clarity. They may not say it out loud. They may not even understand why they feel more drawn in. But steadiness pulls them closer. It lowers threat. It creates room. At the same time, it protects you from slipping into a one-sided bond where you spend your life waiting for crumbs. Because let us be real, some people hear advice about loving an avoidant and turn it into endless self-sacrifice. They tell themselves to be patient while ignoring repeated hurt. That is not healthy love. That is emotional starvation dressed up as understanding. If someone needs space, fine. But if they use distance to avoid all accountability, that is different. Learn the difference. One is fear, the other is refusal. And your peace depends on seeing that clearly before too much time passes. Patience matters here in a huge way. You are not going to transform an avoidant person overnight, and if you try, you will wear yourself out. The better way is to stop measuring love only by big emotional displays and start noticing small changes that signal trust. Do they text a little more often without being pushed? Do they ask how you are doing and actually stay for the answer? Do they remain in conversations they would have once escaped from? Do they start sharing small details from their day, their stress, their worries, their memories? In the avoidant world, these are not small things. These are real steps, quiet breakthroughs. So when they happen, notice them, appreciate them, but do not jump on them with pressure and make them perform more. Let the moment breathe. Let progress stay natural. That is how growth keeps moving. If every small opening is met with urgent excitement, they may close again. But if it is met with warmth and calm, they begin to trust that being open with you will not turn into a trap. This part is hard for people who crave fast reassurance, but it matters. Real safety is not built through force. It is built through repeated proof that closeness with you can stay calm, repeated proof that honesty does not create punishment, repeated proof that your care is steady, not controlling. And the more that truth settles in their body, not just their mind, the more love starts to feel possible instead of risky. That is when real movement begins. Another major piece is emotional responsibility. Avoidant people tend to shut down when they feel responsible for managing someone else's inner world. If they sense that your peace depends on them texting back fast enough, saying the right thing, or always staying emotionally available, they often begin to feel trapped. And once they feel trapped, they pull away. So if you are lonely, anxious, or hurting, be honest about it, but do not hand them the full job of fixing it. You can say, I am having a hard day and I am working through it, but I wanted to share where I am. That lands very differently than, you are making me feel this way and I need you to fix it now. One invites connection, the other creates weight. Emotional maturity is deeply calming to an avoidant person because it tells them that your inner world is real, but not unstable enough to swallow them whole. Ironically, the more you take care of your own emotional life, the safer they often feel stepping into it. They do not want to become the center of your emotional universe. They want to be part of your life without feeling like they must carry all of it. This is why self-regulation is not just good for you, it is good for the bond. Grounded people create safe relationships, and if you are always reaching for them from panic, they will feel that. But if you are reaching from steadiness, they feel that too, and that difference changes how they respond. This does not mean you become emotionally silent. It means you become emotionally rooted. That kind of presence can open doors that pressure never will. But let us slow down for a second and tell the truth many people avoid. Loving an avoidant is not for everyone. If your nervous system needs daily affection, frequent reassurance, easy emotional access, and strong verbal warmth, this path may challenge you deeply. And that does not make you needy. It makes you honest. Love is not about forcing yourself to accept less than you need just because you understand someone's wounds. It is also not about trying to shape them into the partner you wish they were. Real love asks a harder question. Is the way this person loves enough for me? Not in fantasy, not someday, not after years of hoping, but in reality. Do I feel safe here too? Am I growing, or am I constantly waiting for scraps of affection and calling it patience? This question matters because safety has to move both ways. The goal is not just to make them feel secure enough to love you. The goal is mutual safety, mutual respect, mutual effort. If you are always the one understanding, soothing, adjusting, and waiting, something is off. Love should stretch you, yes, but it should not slowly erase you. So before you go deeper, check in with yourself honestly. Are you calm more often than confused? Are you valued, not just tolerated? Are your needs respected, even if they are not met perfectly every time? This self-check is not selfish. It is wise, and the strange truth is that avoidant people often trust you more when they see that you trust yourself. Self-respect is not a threat to healthy love. It is one of the things that makes healthy love possible. Here is one of the deepest shifts you can make. Stop trying so hard to get love from them and start focusing on becoming emotionally grounded, clear, and open in yourself. That change is quiet, but it is powerful. When you stop pushing to be chosen and start living from self-respect, you stop feeling like a pursuer. And to an avoidant person, that matters. A pursuer can feel like pressure. A grounded partner feels like peace. When they realize you are not trying to trap them, fix them, or pull them into a version of closeness they are not ready for, something softens. They begin to see you not as a threat to their independence, but as a real partner, someone who can stand beside them without trying to own them. That is where attraction often deepens, not because you became distant or cold, but because you became steady. You stopped chasing noise, you started choosing peace, and in that stillness, they often begin to move toward you more naturally. Not because they have to, because they want to, and that is the kind of movement you want. Chosen closeness, not forced closeness. Keep listening, because this part changes the whole energy of the relationship. Love with an avoidant often grows in the spaces where pressure used to live. In silence that feels safe, not punishing. In check-ins that feel warm, not invasive. In honest moments that do not demand instant answers. That kind of love may not look dramatic from the outside, but it can be deeply real, quiet, loyal, steady. And in a world full of noise, that kind of love can feel rare. It also helps to understand what not to do, because sometimes one repeated habit keeps the whole cycle alive. Do not test them to see if they care. Do not pull away just to make them chase. Do not use jealousy, silence, or emotional games to wake them up. Those moves may create reaction, but they do not build trust. And trust is the only thing that truly changes an avoidant pattern over time. Also, do not turn every moment of distance into a courtroom. If every pause becomes an intense talk about commitment, feelings, and the future, they may begin to associate connection with emotional exhaustion. That does not mean you ignore issues. It means you choose the right moment and the right tone. Calm truth lands better than emotional ambush. Another thing, do not mistake mystery for depth. Some avoidant people are deeply feeling and sincere, others are simply unavailable. Your job is not to romanticize confusion. Your job is to observe patterns. Are they slowly becoming more present, more accountable, more open, or are they staying distant while enjoying your patience? That answer matters, because healthy understanding should lead to clearer connection, not endless guessing. If someone wants closeness with you, even if it is hard for them, you will usually see effort somewhere, maybe not dramatic effort, but real effort. They return, they try, they stretch, they show small acts of care. If all you see is avoidance with no movement, no accountability, and no concern for your experience, that is not a puzzle you are meant to solve forever. Sometimes the deepest love you can offer is compassion from a distance and honesty with yourself. Now let us talk about what safety feels like in real life, not just in theory. Safety is when they can say they need space without fearing punishment. Safety is when you can say you need consistency without fearing abandonment. Safety is when silence is not used as a weapon and closeness is not used as control. Safety is when both people can breathe. In that kind of space, an avoidant person may begin to do things they once resisted. They may share more of what they think. They may stay longer in tender moments. They may start reaching for you in simple ways, asking about your day, remembering details, checking in after conflict, letting affection last a little longer. These moments may look small to someone used to louder love, but do not miss them. For many avoidant people, this is how trust speaks first, softly, carefully, a little at a time. And if you meet those moments with steadiness, not hunger, the bond can grow roots, deep roots. The kind built on choice and safety, not panic and performance. This is also where your energy matters more than your script. People can feel when your kindness hides resentment. They can feel when your patience is really fear of losing them. True safety comes from inner steadiness, from saying, I care, and I also know my worth. I am here, and I am not here to force what is not ready. That energy changes the room. It makes love feel less like a demand and more like an open door. And open doors invite more trust than locked arms ever will. If you are on this journey right now, remember this. Progress may be slow, but slow does not mean fake. Sometimes the strongest love stories are not the loudest ones. Sometimes they are built in tiny moments that nobody else sees. The extra minute they stay on the phone. The honest sentence after weeks of distance. The way they start letting your presence calm them instead of overwhelm them. These moments matter, but your peace matters too. So as you build safety with them, keep building safety within yourself. Stay connected to your own needs. Keep your own life full. Protect your routines, your friendships, your joy, your center. Do not make the relationship the only place your heart can breathe. That is too much weight for any bond, and especially too much for an avoidant one. The healthier and more grounded you become, the less pressure the connection carries. And strangely, that often makes room for more love, not less. So love them from strength, not fear. Offer warmth without collapsing. Offer patience without disappearing. Offer honesty without attack. Let them come closer because it feels good, not because they are scared to lose you. That is a completely different kind of closeness, a cleaner kind, a more lasting kind. And if they do meet you there, what grows may not be flashy, but it can be deeply loyal, deeply honest, and deeply real. Stay with that, because real love is not always the fastest thing. Sometimes it is the safest thing. And here is the final truth. You do not create love with an avoidant by chasing, fixing, proving, or performing. You create the chance for love by showing up calm, clear, and authentic over time, by respecting their pace without betraying your own, by making room for closeness while keeping your dignity in the room, by understanding that their distance is often a defense, not always a verdict on your worth, but also by knowing that understanding them should never require abandoning yourself. That is the balance, that is the work, and that is the secret. Make love feel like a choice, not an obligation. Make your presence feel steady, not suffocating. Make honesty feel safe, not dangerous. If this speaks to your situation, pause for a second and really think about your own relationship patterns too. This part matters more than people think. The safety you want to give someone else has to live inside you first. Because when you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing peace, everything begins to shift. Your energy changes, your standards rise, your love becomes cleaner, and from that place, you can finally see clearly who is moving toward you, who is only hiding from closeness, and whether this bond is growing into something mutual or only teaching you what you can no longer settle for. Either way, you win, because now you are not loving from fear, you are loving from truth. And that is where the healthiest kind of love begins.